This is the Dallas Morning News.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into SportsDay Insider presented by the Dallas Morning News. I'm joined by my pals, Evan Grant and David Moore. It's Thanksgiving week. Can't beat that. It's a great holiday, great time of year. There's a little chill in the air. And there's life in the Cowboys.
Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah. David, I tell you what, that was one of the more zany endings of an NFL game that I have ever witnessed. I don't know that I've ever seen such highs and lows and ridiculous things happen in the final quarter of a game that was 3-3 at halftime, and I think what was it, 10-9?
10-9 going into the fourth. And then 41 points scored, I guess, in the fourth quarter. 41.
And not in conventional scoring either. You had some really crazy stuff happening. I got to tell you, I guess I'm going to have to back up a little bit on Kevontae Turpin. He frustrates me watching him do some of the things he does. And then, of course, he lets a ball go between his legs, goes back, picks it up, does a little spin move, and he's off to the races. It reminds me of when I was growing up in Houston and the Oilers were so bad. And the thing you hope for each and every week was that Billy White Shoes Johnson could return a punt for a touchdown 3 or 4 times, and then maybe they could win.
2 things here,
yeah,
Kevin. Number one, the drop ball was all part of the plan.
Okay.
And number 2, there's no way you were growing up when Billy White Shoes Johnson was with the Oilers. You were a full-grown adult male at that point in time.
No, I was not a full-grown adult male until I married my wife, Debbie. That's when I became a full-grown adult.
And there's still about a 5 or 6 year period after that we're not quite sure about based on some conversations.
Or as Debbie would say, maybe about a 20 or 30 year period after that. Yeah, for sure. That was fun stuff.
At Texas Capital, we know that the path to greatness isn't for the faint of heart. It's full of chances and opportunities with no promises. We know because we help clients and communities achieve greatness every day. Texas Capital is a full-service financial services firm founded and headquartered in Dallas, Texas. Our customized solutions were built to keep your business moving forward. Please visit texascapital.com to learn more. That's texascapital.com. Texas Capital is the collective brand name for the Texas Capital Bank and its separate non-affiliate banks and wholly owned subsidiaries. For deposit products, member FDIC. So,
David, what are we to make of these Cowboys now? Because they got the Giants coming up on Thursday, and they're a bigger mess than the Cowboys are.
They are. That's
one thing 2 wins in a row, isn't it?
Well, it should be. I would still say tap the brakes on salvaging their season. No, a respite from the misery that's been swirling around them. Yes, and let's see how long of a respite it is. I know everyone is focusing on, well, look at all these games against teams with losing records. Well, guess what? The Cowboys' last 2 wins were against 8-2 Pittsburgh and 7-3 Washington. They don't beat bad teams. They certainly don't beat anybody at home. And this, this is the less than classical. There are only 2 teams in the league that have not won at home on Thanksgiving week as the schedule turns to Thanksgiving week. That is Dallas, and that's the New York Giants. So my question would be, does that mean the Giants should have the edge in this game since it's at AT&T Stadium?
Yeah, I can't give them the edge. I got to tell you, I want to back up just for a second.
I can't do that.
Well, but because it's interesting to me, Jaden Daniels, I don't know exactly what his health situation is now for the Commanders, but the guy was off to an MVP start, and then he really has slowed down here. And of course, one of his lead receivers is Noah Brown, so I'm not going to ding him too much for that. They have some real shortfalls in their personnel. But, we've seen this kind of across the league. Caleb Williams' rookie season has kind of gone up and down, been all over the place. Jaden Daniels started out the season great. He is really fading now. I think this says a lot about when fans want to get rid of a quarterback, like maybe Dak Prescott, that these were the guys who were the top picks in the draft. And this is kind of what you get. Even C.J. Stroud, who had a great year last year
compared to this year. Yeah.
Not nearly the same this year as he was last year. I think this really says a lot to me about what defenses are able to do now. And because I haven't looked up to see the numbers and how they compare, but it sure seems like offenses are down in general this season. You see a lot of quarterbacks.
There were some glaring exceptions. Yeah, Detroit, is a glaring exception. But
it's like others. Quarterbacks are throwing for 180, 190 yards, and that used to be just a bad day. If you didn't throw for 200 yards, you had a bad day at the office.
Well, more teams are running the ball. More teams are running the ball than the way they did.
And that's what we're seeing now.
The pendulum always swings. The pendulum always swings a little bit. So we're seeing it swing back to a little more balance because for the last 5 to 8 years, teams have been built to defend the run. So you had what, Dan Quinn did here in his 3 years, which was very successful defensively, which is basically being dime and nickel the whole game. And you take out a linebacker and you go with an extra safety or an extra corner, sometimes two, and go with only one linebacker if you. So the league was turning that way. And so coaches went, well, this game is all about just getting playmakers in space. And if we can get our running backs in that underneath level with only one linebacker, if we get them past that initial line, if we get them to the second stage, we feel pretty good about that. And you're seeing more of that this year. So I think you're seeing a swinging back to a little more balance with running backs and how you balance these offenses. But in my mind, the league's always going to be that way. It's always going to swing within acceptable levels between run, pass, and balance. I will say, though, with the rules in place, the balance in these days, in my mind, is 60-40, which is pass run. And that's kind of like the baseline. To me, a 60-40 team is balanced because you just need that explosive vertical element of scoring points. And big plays equate to scoring in the NFL. And so I don't see that changing. But, some of these teams have swung to like an 80-20. But you don't see that anymore. You see more teams running the ball. And again, obviously, if you get a big lead and then you just run all in the fourth quarter like a Detroit does or something, the numbers look a little different. But, I just think this is where the league is. And that is where Dallas is completely behind the current offensive trend at the moment because they just went, we're just not going to invest at running back. And in my mind, that's the biggest thing on why this offense has struggled this season, along with the young offensive line.
Yeah, the young offensive line is a huge part of that. And speaking of that, what are we to make of Tyler Guyton's development? He had, 3 penalties in that game and a fourth?
That were accepted, yeah. One was declined, yeah.
Yeah. The issue with him and his, of course, he was splitting time there with Asim Richards. So is the splitting of time, is that a question of you can't be making these kind of mistakes and so you're out? Or is it just a plan all along that, no, we just need to, he's not doing the job as well as we would like, and we would like to get Richards in there as well? What is the story behind that?
Well, Guyton is playing with a shoulder injury, and he actually has like a sling on his right shoulder. He says it doesn't inhibit him, but he is playing with that. They went into this game. Asim Richards played so well in the game against Houston, they felt that he deserved another crack at it. So their plan going into this game, since Guyton isn't 100% physically and has struggled with the penalties, was, okay, let's just go with the rotation. And you saw Guyton open the first 2 possessions. Asim Richards got the next 2. Then I think Guyton finished out the half. Guyton started in the third, and then they went to Asim Richards. But I will say, after the third penalty, I believe it was, Guyton was removed during the possession and replaced by Asim Richards. So that wasn't part of the rotation. That was, you're not doing your job, get off the field. And maybe this is the way they need to manage Tyler Guyton for the remainder of this season, because he basically got the job by default. while they are still high on his future, his present is problematic. And especially without your starting quarterback, with such a fine line this offense is operating on. I mean, they struggled to get to 20 points. That's a good day for them. And this latest score was inflated due to 2 kickoff return touchdowns. In fact, you're talking about the 41 points in the final quarter. It wasn't just the final quarter. Those 41 points were scored in the final 8 minutes and 11 seconds. And in the final 169 seconds of the game, there were 2 kickoff returns for a touchdown, an 86-yard touchdown pass, and a field goal. And a missed extra point. I guess I should throw that in there. That was significant.
Yeah, there was something.
So that was just an insane game. Yeah.
It was really fun watching the reaction of the head coaches.
Yeah,
the cameras would go back to them, and 1 minute everybody's all pumped, and then
tremendous
next
highs and lows. Yeah,
we did what?
How in the world did that? Yeah, what were we thinking?
Yeah, I don't know that was there any discussion over Wanye Thomas's decision to return that for a touchdown, and that maybe you just fall on it and let us run out the clock here?
Oh yeah, that was the prevailing opinion in the Cowboys locker room, which was. They saw Wanye, and I was asking several guys the question, was it go, or was it go down, go down? And all of them said it was go down, but, they were happy for him and all this. But, no, it was – and he said he wrestled with it, and he said he knew he should have gone down, but he
didn't
thought
look
he had
like
a
he
chance.
Was wrestling with it as he was running.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say it was a split-second hesitation, I think. But this is – while it worked out there, this is what bad teams do. They try to make those sort of plays thinking, okay, I can make this play. I can turn the tide. This is going to go our way. Where the smart play was, yes, he made the play. The smart play was to take it and go down right there and you end the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my takeaway from the Cowboys is all of that, the absurdity of that game. And that finish is one thing. And, the immediate takeaway that I had is, all right, this is what it takes for the Cowboys to win a game right now. But I think the overall takeaway for me is that the number of penalties, the number of attempts that guys make to try and make game-changing plays all speaks to what I think is a lack of confidence in this team's talent that has infected the entire locker room. Nobody thinks that the team on its own is good enough, and they've all got to make the play. I've seen it happen with the Rangers on offense. You see it happen in all sports. It does kind of creep across the entire locker room, and that's what I'm seeing when I watch this team play. Everybody's either guys are all trying to make the big play, or in a game where they fall down like they did 2 weeks ago, it looks like guys just give up on routes.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I will say, I think, and I don't want to read too much into this one win. And again, it should be 2 wins coming out of Thanksgiving. There's, as bad as Dallas has been, New York has been worse. There is no doubt about that. And just from what I've seen, Dallas is clearly playing with more professional pride and let's finish this thing out and are still all on the same page in a way New York does not appear to be at the moment. Now, that can all change with one game.
I did text my 2 most notable New York Giants fans yesterday with this question. Is Giants management a bunch of knobs? And the answers were, can't argue with that. I just don't even get the if you want to get rid of Daniel Jones, why do you put him at safety on the scout team? Why do you do that to a guy?
Yeah, you would anticipate that'll be the response. Yeah,
I think that the fact that they let him go, I guess, is kind of phenomenal. I'm not going to defend Daniel Jones' record and what he's done there. He's not been good, and there's no question about that. And he's getting a lot of money to be not very good. But he is one of the more high-profile quarterbacks who's ever just been released in the middle of a season like that. And when you're given the job. Not to the guy
anyone
who
put on the scout team as a safety.
Yeah, exactly.
during the season.
And you end up with little Tommy DeVito as your quarterback. I mean, that just seems like we're just turning everything into a joke now, that we're going to let him be a quarterback, a kid from New Jersey. So I got to ask this question, David. Did the Cowboys reach out to Daniel Jones this week?
No, because you have the salary. Well, again, he cleared waivers, so but you would have to sign him. You signed Dak to the deal. So look at it from Daniel Jones' perspective, too. Unless he's willing to come in and clearly simply compete for a backup job, why would he come to Dallas? Two, how much would Dallas pay, given that Dak Prescott will be the highest paid player in the NFL next season? I don't know that you devote a lot more money to that position with all of your other needs. It is more of a Cooper Rush or, Trey Lance, we saw some things, when we give this another year or two, the system. Now, again, this gets into whose system's going to be. I get all that. Although Jerry did declare that, I wouldn't expect him to say otherwise, that an extension is not out of the question for Mike McCarthy. But that the writing's on the wall there. Jerry set all this in motion. He's just trying to keep everyone engaged while it plays out. It's pretty clear where this thing is headed at the end of the season.
Well, I was just thinking you just sign Daniel Jones for a week and then you cut him next week.
Then cut him.
Good. Tell us what's coming here, Daniel. What do you think? Of course,
if Daniel really want to be spiteful, he could do that every week.
I don't know that
right?
I trust Daniel Jones to be able to do that. I think that's kind of the reason he was released.
No, come on. He'd be a great scout for the Cowboys.
Those other teams' defenses, his own, he was fine. He looked good in practice.
Don't the Raiders? Doesn't the other clown car in the league need a quarterback?
The Raiders, yeah. I mean, now they're looking at, without being their top two quarterbacks, and it was always questionable whether they had a real number one. So, yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones going there. But again, if you're Daniel Jones, do you sit there and you make what is best for me to finish out this season? Or we just go, this season is lost. I need to find a situation that I have a chance to compete in where I can redefine who I am. So he's got to show a bit of judiciousness on his part here, I think, as well.
All right, so let me ask the two of you this, okay? Let's assume what seems to be obvious. The Cowboys should win this game unless the ceiling falls or curtains
which it did
drawn.
The last game. Yes.
Right. Yes.
The ceiling did literally fall in the Houston game. Yes.
So they're 5 and let's say they're 5 and 7. Is there hope for this team to make the playoffs in either of your minds?
No. Kevin?
No.
Yeah. So
we cleared that up.
So what should we do on Thanksgiving afternoon? Just watch the game and be entertained? Hope for more silliness?
Well, absolutely. Yeah. Look, that's my take on the game the other day was that if you can't be good, if you can't be a decent NFL team, at least be entertaining. And they were that. They were very entertaining. I laughed out loud at a couple of things that happened at the end of that game. It was just a riot watching it. I can't think of another NFL game that I have seen where something really goofy happened in back-to-back. We got a kick return. The ball goes between a guy's legs. He picks it up and returns it 99 yards. And then the next play, you throw an 86-yard touchdown pass. I mean, where guys are just running through your secondary. He's just running past. At one point, McLaurin is running past 5 guys of the Cowboys. It was just a hoot watching that happen.
That brings up a question for me, right? You laughed out loud. I'm watching the game at home, and I let out an audible, "Oh my God!" And Gina came running into the room. David, we all know how jaded and cynical we have to be when we're in our professional lives. Was there any reaction to the last 2 minutes of the game in the press box? Was there anything that was noticeable?
Well, as Kevin knows this, and probably Evan, you will too. A little bit behind the scenes look. Sometimes when a game is over, like a Turpin touchdown return, you wrap up what you have to do and you go downstairs so you can, because of course nothing else is going to happen. So Let me say, I was not alone in this. There were several other local reporters walking down with me, and we get down on the bottom level, and we hear this like huge cheering, and it's like, what? And so then we run to a place, and they didn't have TVs down there, so then we run to where you can like catch a little bit through the tunnel, and we start following it on TV. So we watched on our phones the final few minutes unfold in slightly delayed time. But we heard the crowd react, and we're going, well, why would they react that way? and then we saw.
Oh, yeah. That's the beauty of that, isn't it? I had the same thing happen in the Texas-Arkansas game. And so, it's an 11 o'clock start. And Lord knows we have to get something out as soon as the game is over for an 11 o'clock game. And so I'm riding away of an 11 o'clock start. And so I hit that button. I go downstairs. I'm running around trying to find where the locker room is because all the other reporters have already gone down. And I get there. And then they're all talking about, but that play where Quinn Ewers bulldozed that guy. And it's like, what play are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about.
So I would like to say
need to know, right?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You got to get to the elevators, because if you don't get to the elevators before the game ends, then you're not going to get to the elevator. Then you're not going to get downstairs for the press conferences. It's a do or die situation.
Yeah, and they hold the elevators for the coaches in a lot of spots too. So if you don't go down at a certain time, you risk being, missing the start of press conference or locker room availability. And when a game is nicely tied up like that, you just go. And
no, absolutely.
So that's why I'm hesitant.
I wrote about that a couple of weeks ago in my newsletter about the great Mickey Herskowitz once was covering a Rice A&M football game at Rice Stadium. And they had and still has a famously slow elevator. And when he got in the elevator, A&M was losing by 2 touchdowns. I think it was, or at least by 10 points. When he got out of the elevator, Rice was winning and had no idea what had happened until he saw Bear Bryant sitting outside the locker room. And he said, I missed everything. Can you tell me what happened? And he said, Bryant said, no, I can't. I was too busy praying. So anyway,
Where is that in the world today? Why can't somebody give us that?
I know. I tell you what, of course, it's entirely possible that Mickey made it up. But I'm going to say no, that didn't happen. Mickey was one of my heroes when I was growing up in Houston. He was a great sports writer. Still with us. Not doing great, but he's still with us. But anyway.
This is all of us, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's a different world now in sports and covering these teams. And it's a lot of fun sometimes and maybe not so much fun. So, David, going forward then with these Cowboys, yes, this is just a little, oasis in the middle of the schedule here. They're going to have
reprieve.
This reprieve from everything that's happening.
The governor is still looming over their heads with that midnight
that's right. Still a good thing for them to have that. But I will say this, they're going to jeopardize a top 10 pick here if they keep this up. If they get to 6 or 7 wins, then they're going to be picking in the teens then, and that's going to change.
I think they're 11 now. Yeah, I think they dropped from 9 to 11 with this unruly victory they threw in there.
Yeah, and that may even drop a little bit more if they win another game here. So this is not good for their long-term prospects. I know that Mike McCarthy couldn't care less because he's not a long-term prospect at coach, but I do think it does change things, not only from the prospects of who you might get, but from the prospects of what you might get. I think there's a point where obviously the Cowboys could use anything, right? They could use a defensive lineman, they could use a running back, they could use a wide receiver. There's all kinds of positions that they could use, but the higher you go in a draft, you don't pay as much attention to the position. You look at it from purely by a talent standpoint. Who is the best talent we can get here? Who is the can't miss player? Because the Cowboys can't miss in this next draft. We could say that Will McClay has done a great job in his time as a talent evaluator and personnel guy in charge of the draft, but this last couple of drafts have been a little bit questionable. And as far as impact players, there have been some guys they've gotten and played pretty well, but the first round picks have struggled over the last couple of years. So I would say, wouldn't you, that this is as critical a draft as they've had probably, I don't know, 10 years or so?
Well, yeah, because you need to hit a bit of the reset button here. Now they will, regardless of how this plays out, they're going to have a higher pick than they've had the last 3 years than they were when they were 12-5. This is going to be a pick somewhere probably between 10 and 18. That is, they've done really well in that range. You look under Will McClay's tenure, and when they're in that 10 to 18 range, they've done pretty darn good. So I think they're positioned. And we always talk about it in terms of first round. It makes a huge difference. Third round, fourth round, fifth round, to be up in the top third of the round versus the bottom third of the round. That is where you really make a big difference in the depth of your draft classes and hitting on more players. It just gives you much better odds to do it. So, yeah, that positioning will be significant. I think, it depends on how this season plays out. You talked about the last few, first-round picks not doing anything. I tell you what, Mozzie Smith has gotten better and better, not in a flashy, wow, look, this guy has arrived. But there have been about 3-4 straight games here where you look out there and you go, he's holding the point of attack better. He's not getting pushed back the way he was. He's clogging some things up and making them kick outside. You're getting a sense of why they used a first-round pick on him. Schoonmaker in these last 2 games, who was, I would argue, the biggest disappointment of their high draft picks, with Ferguson out, has actually had 2 good games, and that was a very good play on the touchdown that he got late that it turned out they needed. So, I think if those guys develop, if you see, look, they're very happy with BB. If Guyton shows a little bit of improvement here over the rest of the season, some of these younger guys, then I think you step back and say this team winds up 8-9 or 7-10. Then you step back and you go, well, that was a horrible run of injuries there. We didn't respond the way we wanted to early. But look, these young guys developed. This thing isn't as bad off as it appeared to be in the first 2 months of the season. These guys have developed. We really do just need a running back, B, and you identify it that way. So I still think the nucleus of that 12-5 team is intact. And we'll see how intact it is at the end of the season.
Do you think that potential candidates for the job, let's just go ahead and assume that Mike McCarthy's not going to survive all this, see that and that would know that this is with all the concern that fans have about Jerry and who would want to work for Jerry, I'm just going to say right up top is that most guys don't have a problem with working with Jerry.
Exactly.
There's just a select few coaches who might not want to do that. Maybe 2 or 3 who wouldn't want to do that. And I'm not so sure that Belichick is in that crowd anymore.
Because they know the risk reward too. They know if they do get this team back to a conference championship or the Super Bowl, they know what the reaction is going to be, and they know what that means to their careers. And so, yeah, this is still, we tend to downgrade it in the media a lot of times. This is a destination point for coaches, always will be. Jerry defers to them. And remember, coaches have ego too. They'll go, well, I can get it done there. That's why I'm saying every coach who's interested in this job is looking very closely at these young players as the rest of the season plays out to get a feel on just what would I have there if I go in on that job and how far away are they.
Yeah, I'd bet that anybody that's considering the Cowboys job looks at, okay, is the talent there with a good draft? Is the talent there that allows me to win in spite of Jerry? If the talent is there, I think that they'd be much more interested in. Not much more interested. I think the number of guys who would turn down this job is really, really slim. And I think that if they feel the talent's there, they're going to be all that much more convinced. And so if I'm Jerry, I'm trying to show off my talent as much as I possibly could the rest of the season.
No question. All right, we're going to have to get out of the Cowboys segment of our podcast now. David's going to have to leave us. Evan and I are going to talk about a little college football.
Just temporarily, I hope. I hope it's not.
No. This is for good, David. We'll see you. Thanks very much for being on the podcast.
Happy holidays.
All these years, and happy holidays to you. I'm sorry. I'm passing along management's feelings here, I believe, as well.
Enjoy the food at Jerry World on Thursday.
Always do. Thanks, guys.
I bet.
At Texas Capital, we know that the path to greatness isn't for the faint of heart. It's full of chances and opportunities with no promises. We know because we help clients and communities achieve greatness every day. Texas Capital is a full-service financial services firm founded and headquartered in Dallas, Texas. Our customized solutions were built to keep your business moving forward. Please visit texascapital.com to learn more. That's texascapital.com. Texas Capital is the collective brand name for the Texas Capital Bank and its separate non-affiliate banks and wholly owned subsidiaries. For deposit products, member FDIC.
All right. I tell you what, I don't know if you noticed, Evan, but in our coverage in today's Dallas Morning News, as we're recording this on Tuesday, we had Sean McFarland in Austin writing about Texas. We had Brad Townsend in College Station writing about the Aggies, just like old times. This is good newspaper stuff. We're getting out there, getting on the scene, figuring out what's happening in these places. It's good times. Who said the newspapers were dying?
Look, I mean, if this rivalry is going to resume, it can't resume in a better way, can it? With an SEC championship berth on the line, and in all likelihood, I think if A&M loses this game, in all likelihood, their playoff hopes are dashed. I don't know that I don't think it would take Texas out of the playoff.
No. Texas will probably still get in. The problem for Texas is going to be, let's say if you lose this game and you go from 3, what are you going to go from 3 to, you'd be losing to a 15th ranked team. So are you going to go from 3 to 12, 3 to 13? I don't see that happening. I could see them going to 9 or 10 or 11, but not any further than that. The problem will be that if, depending on how that 5th conference champion is going to do, if they finish out of the top 12, then there's a chance that if you're in 11, if you're at 12, you get bumped out because of it. But I think the committee probably will take that into consideration. They don't want Texas to get bumped out. And so they'll probably bring them in, I would think, with a loss, depending on what kind of loss, too, right? If it's close and the competitive game and both teams play well, then they wouldn't drop that much. Maybe they drop to, 8 or 9. But if it's, if they get dumped, well, then that could be problematic.
Well, the question for me would be is, let's say Texas wins this game, as I assume Texas is going to win this game. I think Texas is going to win this game. And let's assume that they lose to Georgia. So they're a 2-loss team going into the playoffs. They're in the playoffs. But would the possibility that if they lose to Georgia in the SEC championship, and the fact that they've gone 0-2 against the representative of the SEC, would the committee look harshly on that?
Well, I would think so. That I will say it's funny when I tune in on these Zoom calls on the press conferences on Tuesday nights when they do the CFP rankings. One of the questions is always about Texas' schedule. We only get about 6 to 8 questions, and one of the questions from across the country is that, well, Texas really hasn't played anybody. Their best win is against Vanderbilt. I will say this: some of their wins are starting to look a little better. When you look at Florida winning, last week, they against Ole Miss, Texas stomped Florida. Now it was a different quarterback, but they still scored a lot of points against that defense. I think that the thing about Texas and going into this game for me against A&M in particular will be how they respond in that environment. It's very loud, and as we found out, it's even a little manufactured noise because they've got speakers out there apparently that they use, which ought to be illegal. I mean, how does the NCAA allow something like that? You can't manufacture the noise. That's terrible. But I will say this: the Aggies defense got a little exposed last week, I thought. And I think that
how did it get exposed in your mind? What was exposed?
Not as tough. I mean, it was good in the second half. Now, look, the thing I like about Mike Elko's teams is that it seems like they play better in the second half of games, just like the LSU game, right? They were just getting stomped in that game. They come back and win it. Played really well. They were really getting stomped last week in the first half, and then they turn right around and win that game in the second half. So, or they come back in that game anyway. It looked like they were going to win, and then they, of course, lost it at the last.
My takeaway from that was, look, Auburn's got a top tier running back in Hunter, and I thought Auburn ran the ball at him really well. I don't know. Maybe Texas with Wisner will run the ball a little bit more, but Texas did not run the ball well for me for most of the season.
They have a better running attack than you think. The thing about Texas is it's just not Wisner. Jaden Blue is probably really their best running back. He's had a little trouble fumbling the ball, and so that kind of that gets him a seat every once in a while. But he's a pretty good back, pretty dynamic. They have a pretty good running attack, and if the Aggies can't stop them running the ball, well, then that's going to be a real problem, because then that only kind of gives Quinn Ewers a little extra edge there that doesn't fall on his shoulders quite as much. I mean, if I'm the Aggies, what I'm hoping to do is obviously get to Ewers, collapse the pocket. You've seen him make plays outside the pocket, but he's not comfortable doing that. He's not quick. He's not a particularly good runner. He has to operate within the pocket, and he can do that. He had his moments, last week against Kentucky, where he was able to do that and look really good. And then he just kind of had a little run there where, boy, he just doesn't look good. And he's not taking control of the game. They're not putting their foot on the necks of Kentucky. I don't think that in some ways, I'm not sure that Quinn is playing as well as he played last year. And even in the championship game last year, there a lot of people criticizing for that game. I thought he played overall pretty well. And that last throw, I didn't have a problem with that either. I thought it was more a problem for me of the wide receiver not making the play that he should have on the ball. And so he was within one throw of getting them to the championship game. I just don't see the same kind of confidence this week. And then, of course, he sustained the ankle injury against Kentucky. And it was questioned on the broadcast, and I thought so too. Why at this point, when you're up a little bit here, why don't you bring Arch Manning in, let him play? Because one, you're going to get Quinn off the ankle. Two, you're going to get in a little more experience in case he has to play against A&M. That just seemed like the logical thing to do. But Steve Sarkisian just stuck with him. He's limping around out there, and he's sticking with him anyway. It was a curious decision, I thought, to do that. And I don't know if he felt like that Quinn just needs to play through some of this stuff and see and show him, convince him that he can do this, or if he just was being stubborn about it and thought, no, I don't want to start something about who the starting quarterback really is.
I mean, I think there's a little bit of combination of both those. That game was not undecided. They didn't put Kentucky away until late. And I think that in a lot of ways, Sarkisian is running through the equation in his mind. I don't want to take my starting quarterback out of a game we have to win here and put it in the hands of my backup, no matter how good my backup is. And I think the second part of it is, if you do bring Arch in and he does lead you on a touchdown drive, and the way Quinn has played this year, does it all of a sudden create some degree of controversy going into the A&M game that creates more headaches for you? So I think he felt like Ewers could get the job done, and that's all that needed to happen. And then they can get out of there and get him the rest leading up to A&M.
Yeah, I think that's, like I said, I still question that. I think that he probably should have given Arch a few reps at some point. It was, they were not going away from that game, but he did the same thing against Georgia, put him in for a few plays in the first half. He's played a few plays here and there, and he hasn't looked real good. And that would be concerning to me, that a guy who had played so well early in the season when he came in and had to start for Quinn, and when Quinn was out, that he seems to have regressed a little. And maybe that's just the fact that he's just not getting enough reps. I don't know. But he just hasn't looked good making decisions. The athleticism is all there. The arm strength is there. You see all of that. That's all obvious.
All right, before we get we got to get to predictions on this game, and then we got to get to the actual quarterback that's playing the best in the state in Kevin Jennings and SMU.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask you one question looking back. The last play of the A&M game, when they put Reed in motion, direct snap, flip it back to him, tight end is open, the receiver's open in the end zone, basically drops the ball. Did you have any issue with that play design?
It was a little cute at that point.
I raised this. I'm asking this because I raised it on Twitter and I got a bunch of pushback. And yes, the receiver did drop the ball, but I thought, why are you starting this play with the quarterback running basically in motion? He's got to make a play here. Just give him the chance to start in a normal situation.
Yeah, I'm a little torn sometimes on essentially goal line plays like that. I don't like plays that spread things out where you're usually like an option type play or something like that. I don't like those. I like more of the straight ahead stuff. I tell you, my favorite play is always the bootleg by the quarterback. I just love that play. You send everybody to the right, and he goes back to the left. You depend on his athleticism, and certainly Reed is very athletic and a tough runner. And to me, I'd rather see him do something like that and get him out there in space one-on-one against somebody.
You've got him in motion, coming back, taking a flip. I mean, it just all seemed a little bit. The play, the design ended up working. It was the execution on the receiver's end that didn't work out. But I did think that you added degrees of difficulty for that play to actually come off.
No question. And that's one of those things that always comes off is that when you ask a coach later if they're being honest, well, the play's there, they just didn't execute it. It's
right.
If you put a player, yes, I don't know how many times they've run that play. I haven't seen them run it. Now, I haven't seen all of their plays this year, but that's a little bit problematic for me too.
All right. So who's winning?
I'm going to go with Texas. Texas, I think, was a 5.5 point favorite last time I saw it. I think that sounds about right. If it's all on Quinn. If Quinn plays really well, because I expect Texas defense to be very good. Their defense is every bit as good as A&M, so that should be a standoff there. The difference will be how the difference in quarterback play between Marcel Reed and Quinn Ewers.
And the one thing I will just say, and I do think Texas is the better team. And I think Texas should win this game. But I will bring up once again, it is hard to win on the road in the SEC. Alabama, Ole Miss, and A&M all found that out really hard again last week. And the one thing that you can say about Texas's schedule is they certainly haven't played, well, I guess to some extent, Michigan early in the year. The Big House, obviously, it's a great atmosphere. But this is going to be a different level than anything they've seen all year.
Well, no question. The Big House was loud. And look, that's before we knew that Michigan wasn't any good.
Right.
And even if their offense stinks and their offense is terrible, that defense was still pretty good. They got 2 first-round picks on that defense. So that gets dismissed. But at the time, that was a good win, a really good win. So, yeah, I think it'll be different for them. But they played there before, and this is why you want a veteran quarterback, right? He's been in these kind of situations before. He's been in a lot of them. Quinn Ewers has played in a lot of big games and a lot of loud games. And so he is probably as prepared for that as any other quarterback could be.
All right.
Yeah, we need to talk about SMU and what's going to happen here with the Mustangs. They're playing really well. Of course, as we know, Rhett Lashley just got another extension on his contract, probably just a year from what we understand. So it takes him through 2030. I would think, though, that probably his salary was about $236, probably at least doubled it. So it's been a good year for him. Pretty good timing on everything. I do think the Mustangs are very well set up here in this last, of course, this week, and then going into the ACC title game. I don't see that changing anything. So it's a question more of who they're going to end up playing. Is it going to be Miami? Is it going to be Clemson? I think really, I'd almost rather play Miami than Clemson. I don't know. Clemson bothers me more as a better all-around team. Miami is all more disciplined.
I've just seen Miami make too many undisciplined mistakes over the course of the year. And I'm not sure Miami can stop SMU.
Yeah, I don't think they can either. I don't think they can stop anybody. And so that's always an issue. The committee still believes in Miami though. And I think that is, yes, Cam Ward. That's the reason why they believe in him. He's the best player. He's one of the 2 or 3 best players in the country, and he's at the most important position on the field.
Who's playing better quarterback right now, Cam Ward or Kevin Jennings?
Well, the thing about Kevin Jennings, what everybody will always say about him, is that the guy just wins, right? He does all the things you want him to do to win a game. He's not going to be flashy. He's not going to dazzle you with his arm strength or with his precision, but he's a winner. And this is the kind of guy you want as a college quarterback, in my mind. This is what the position is evolving toward. I think that eventually that in the NFL, this will be what NFL quarterbacks are. They're just going to be these kind of guys. They're a little easier to find than the old pocket passers. And I just think that the way defenses are, as we talked about earlier in the podcast, it's just harder and harder to find people who can sit in the pocket and dissect a defense.
I'll just say this: that since the start of November, when, as you know, things get a little bit more, things get tougher. There's more at stake. There's not a quarterback from a top 10 team with a higher passer rating than Kevin Jennings. He's got a better passer rating, efficiency rating than Cam Ward. He's got a higher efficiency rating since November 1 than Shedeur Sanders. He's got a higher rating than Quinn Ewers. And I know that, we just talked about Ewers playing inconsistently, but I think Kevin Jennings is playing really smart, effective football right now. And I'm not so sure that if Miami and SMU that Miami and SMU play, maybe Cam Ward is a more dangerous quarterback with what he can do on his run, with his legs, or is willing to do with his legs. But Kevin Jennings is playing as well as any quarterback in the country right now.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. This is a great time. Who would have thought that you would have had 3 schools in this state, A&M, Texas, and SMU, playing at this level, all vying for a shot at the 12-team playoff. This is really great. This first year of the expanded playoffs has been tremendous, and it's been a lot of fun. It'd be hard to figure out who the top 4 teams would be in the old playoffs. In my mind, you got Oregon and Ohio State. But after that, I'm not sure who really is the 3rd and 4th best teams in the country, and we don't have to decide that. We all we have to do is figure out the top 12 and let what happens on a football field dictate it after that. So it's
been a great season in college football. It really has. With a couple of oddities, right? Texas could win the SEC, SMU could win the ACC. Arizona State or Colorado or BYU could all win the Big 12, and Oregon could win the Big 10. None of those teams were in their respective conferences last year.
Yeah, I know. Maybe that's what you got to be now. You got to be an interloper to get in and win this stuff now.
It's great.
Interlopers.
It's great.
All right, that's going to do it for our podcast this week. We wish you a very happy Thanksgiving and hope that everything happens that you want to happen. If you want to have relatives there, great. If you don't want to have them there, well, I'm sorry, they're going to be there anyway. But try to make the best of it. That's all I can tell you. So from everybody in here to everybody out there, thanks, and we'll see you next time. Things happen